There's a difference between people who visualize their dream life and people who visualize and then actually go and live it. And that difference has almost nothing to do with how vividly anyone can picture the outcome. For decades now, visualization has been sold to us as a kind of quiet magic, where you close your eyes, picture the success, feel the feeling, and somehow the universe arranges itself around your wish. The thing is, visualization really does work, just not in the way most people have been told. And yes, Olympic athletes do visualize. Jim Carrey did write himself a check, and Arnold Schwarzenegger really did imagine his biceps as mountains. But what almost nobody talks about is what those people were doing inside their minds, and what they were doing with the rest of their day. Here's what the evidence keeps showing over and over again. Pure fantasy about a dream outcome doesn't bring it any closer, and in some cases, it can even push that outcome further away. There's even something almost cruel about how this plays out. The more people fantasize about a desired future, the less well they tend to do at actually attaining it. Graduates who daydreamed most vividly about landing their dream job ended up with fewer offers and lower salaries. And the same thing happened with people trying to lose weight, recovering from surgery, or chase someone they had feelings for. Visualization wasn't failing them, they were just doing the wrong kind of it. The line that captures it best comes from Gabriele Oettingen, the psychologist who spent over 20 years uncovering this pattern. Dreamers, she puts it, are often not doers. And the reason isn't mystical at all. When you sit there picturing the trophy, the body, the bank account, and you really let yourself feel all of it, your nervous system relaxes into the scene. Your brain treats the fantasy almost like a small, premature taste of the real thing, which means the urgency to actually go get it quietly leaks out of you. You feel good and you do less. So if that's not what visualization is for, the obvious next question becomes what it actually is for. Let me explain. Picture two students sitting in their dorm a week before an important exam. One of them spends 5 minutes a day picturing the A+ on the paper, feeling proud, imagining the relief of it. The other spends those same 5 minutes picturing themselves studying, sitting at their desk, going through their notes, working through the material in a way that would lead to a high score. When the test comes, the student who visualized the grade barely outperforms students who didn't visualize at all. But the one who visualized the studying ends up studying more, feeling less anxious, and walking out of that exam with a higher score than everyone else. That's not a thought experiment, by the way. That's how a real study at UCLA played out, and that distinction is the whole game. Visualizing the outcome is fantasy. Visualizing the process is rehearsal. One of them feels like the finish line. The other one actually walks you toward it. I'm not saying you should never picture the outcome, but if that's all you're doing, you're missing the part that actually moves you. Shift most of your focus onto visualizing the process, and the outcome starts taking care of itself. And once you understand that distinction, the way the world's best performers talk about visualization starts to sound completely different. Take Jack Nicklaus, arguably the greatest golfer who ever lived. In his 1974 book, Golf My Way, Nicklaus wrote, "I never hit a shot, even in practice, without having a very sharp, in-focus picture of it in my head. First, I see the ball where I want it to finish. Then the scene quickly changes and I see the ball going there, its path, trajectory, and shape, even its behavior on landing. The next scene shows me making the kind of swing that will turn the previous images into reality." Notice what he's doing here, because he isn't just seeing the trophy, he's seeing the path, the flight, the swing, the entire sequence of action. Same with Michael Phelps, one of the most successful Olympians in history. He's been doing this since he was a kid. His coach, Bob Bowman, used to send him home from practice with a single instruction, telling him to watch the videotape, watch it before going to bed, and watch it again on waking up. But there was no actual videotape involved. The whole thing was a race Phelps played in his head, every stroke, every turn, every breath. And here's the part that matters most, because Phelps didn't only rehearse the perfect race, he rehearsed disaster too. His goggles flooding with water, or completely missing a turn. As Bowman would put it, By the time Michael gets up on the blocks at the Olympics, he's swum that race hundreds of times in his mind before he gets up there. Then came Beijing in 2008 in the 200-meter butterfly final, where Phelps's goggles actually filled with water during the race itself. He couldn't see the wall, he couldn't see the bottom of the pool, he couldn't see anything. But he counted his strokes from memory, played the videotape in his head, and broke the world record swimming essentially blind. That's not magic. That's a man whose mind had already lived every scenario, calmly, hundreds of times. Which brings us to the part of this story that almost everyone leaves out. Because even great visualization isn't a substitute for action. Phelps still had to swim thousands of laps. Nicholas still had to hit thousands of balls. If you skip the doing, the picturing collapses into a daydream that never comes true. Now let's take a look at Jim Carrey. Around 1990, when he was a broke comedian in Los Angeles, he wrote himself a check for $10 million and folded it into his wallet. He'd drive up to Mulholland Drive at night and tell himself he was a popular actor every director wanted to work with. By Thanksgiving of 1995, he'd hit that $10 million mark. But the check on its own would have meant nothing. Carrey was grinding through stand-up sets, auditions, and rejections the entire time. And the vision did point him in the right direction, but the work is what got him there. As Carrey himself put it, you can't just visualize and then go eat a sandwich. And this is what it all circles back to, again and again. Picturing the outcome calms you down and makes you slack, while picturing the process plans you and moves you forward. But neither one of them on its own is actually enough, because there's even a third step, and it might be the most important of all. It comes from a model called WOOP, with the letters standing for wish, outcome, obstacle, and plan. You start by picturing what you want, then you picture the best version of it actually happening, and then, before you let yourself drift into pleasant fantasy, you ask what the obstacle inside you is that's standing in the way. Then you build a simple plan for the moment that obstacle shows up, knowing exactly what you'll do when it does. That last step matters more than people realize. When you decide in advance exactly what you'll do the moment you hit an obstacle, you become substantially more likely to follow through, instead of folding the way most people do. When you put all of that together, the real purpose of visualization becomes clear. It isn't just a wish, and it isn't magic. The people who actually end up achieving their dreams spent most of their inner time picturing the work, the obstacles, and the response, and then they got up and they actually did the work. And most people will keep visualizing their dreams but doing nothing else, and then wonder why their life looks exactly the same as it did last year. That's the whole secret, and there was never any other one.